Hello, and welcome to this 100th episode of the Total Podcast with me, your host, Phil Scott. So, I have a very special guest today. She's been a past guest on the podcast. Her name is Mari Rosas, and she has her own YouTube channel. And so it's very informative. And so she's a very busy lady. So, without further ado, here is Mari. So, Mari, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast for the 100th episode.
Phil, I am so honored to be on your 100th episode. I really enjoyed being on your previous, I think it was the 63rd episode, it might have been, but I really enjoyed being on your show, your podcast before, and I'm thrilled to be here again.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast again. I mean, you're such an influential guest. I mean, your advice for women was so awesome. And you've done some pretty interesting videos in the time since that we've spoken to each other on the podcast. So why don't you just tell me a little bit and tell the listeners, if they haven't heard your or seen your YouTube channel before, what it's about and some of the things that you talk about, because you've had some very interesting topics on your YouTube channel.
Yes, thank you, Phil. So
You're
my
welcome.
YouTube channel is called Chica Power with Mari Rosas, and it's basically I created it to empower and just encourage women to become the best version of themselves. And really, I feel that as women, maybe it's not just limited to women, but obviously I'm a woman, so I that's my experience. We tend to we're socialized to be the nurturers, right? And so we tend to do a lot of giving, and we sometimes forget about ourselves. So really, the central theme is self-love and just making sure that you're taking care of yourself, and how that isn't really selfish, because I think really the best gift that you can give to those that the people that love you and the people that depend on you is to take care of yourself so that you can give to them. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, if you don't love yourself, then you don't have as much to give, or at least the quality of what you're able to give to others is not going to be as great. So that's really kind of the central theme. And yeah, I have had some interesting topics. I've kind of dabbled in dating, and I did a breakup survival guide. It was a 4-part breakup survival guide, which I kind of consider myself an expert in breakup recovery. I'm not the kind of person you go to for dating advice for other things, but definitely breakup recovery is one of them. And just reaching goals and staying on track with whatever it is that's going to make you happy. I think a lot of my videos have been kind of that and about that, and being true to yourself, and just following what makes you happy, and being true to yourself.
Now, what has been some of the feedback that you've been able to get back from viewers?
So I do get a lot of people that say that they're my videos are inspirational. They feel it's nice to hear that someone else is kind of going through the same things that they're going through, and feeling the same way that they felt, because I think some women come to this realization at some point, like I've really been neglecting myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I hear that a lot, that that my videos are inspirational, that that it's good, it's nice to hear from someone else that's kind of going through the same things that they're going through. Because I really think that making yourself vulnerable and talking about, you're not just talking about the wins, you're talking about the low points that you had in your life, right? And how you
Right.
overcame them. And I think that's really what resonates with most people.
Now, for you, what has been some of the most rewarding aspects of doing your YouTube channel, and also hearing from those people that you've gotten such positive feedback from?
So, I mean, so it's nice to hear that you actually are making a difference, even if it's just a few people. I don't have a huge following with my YouTube channel, although probably since the last time I was on your show, the numbers have tripled, but that's still a small number. But definitely, I think for me, it's been a very cathartic experience, just reinforcing some of the changes that I've made in my life. And just, I don't know how you prepare for your podcast, but the way I prepare for my YouTube videos is I do a lot of writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that, writing is just, it just allows you to really kind of organize your thoughts and your feelings about things in a way that, at least for me, it's not as possible to do if I just get on the air and start talking. But by planning and writing what I'm going to really say and thinking about it and trying to tie it into other things, I made a lot of self-discovery, so it's
Mm-hmm.
really been beneficial to me, as well as hopefully to others, that are being helped out there. It seems like I've touched a few people, and even honestly, I felt to myself, even if I can help 5 people out there, but it's definitely been beneficial to me as well.
Now, one question that
Mhm.
spurs something else that just went through my mind,
Mhm.
because I know for me, when I'm trying to do a podcast, or when I'm coming up for ideas, I have all these different interests that I have. So I'm talking about cars. I talk to writers. I talk to people like you. So I just have a variety of topics, which makes it so fun. So when you're thinking about a topic to talk about on your YouTube channel, what process do you go through? What gives you ideas to do the shows that you do?
Okay. Well, a lot of it has to do with just whatever I'm going through at the time, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, I do ask at the end of all of my videos, I ask my viewers to, please let me know what topics you want to hear about. And every once in a while, I wish I would get more of this, but every once in a while, they will say, I'd like to hear a video on such and such a topic. And so I'm like, okay, if that's something that I have experience with, I will create a video. Sometimes when I'm creating a particular video, another topic kind of comes off as an offshoot. Like this is actually this little thing that I'm mentioning as part of a video, a step or whatever. It kind of warrants its own video, right? So that I'll
Right.
say that I think I'm going to create a topic on that, so I'll say that in my videos. But sometimes it's just whatever I'm going through in life. Like I've experienced a lot of loss in my life, and back I guess it was, I don't know, a little over a year and a half ago, I lost my dear kitty cat. It was
Oh,
really unexpected too. I mean, after I felt like, okay, now we're in a period that hasn't been any loss in a long time, and it was really unexpected. And I had already put out some videos on grief. And so I did another one on how to self-care when you're grieving, because I feel that when you experience a loss, whether it's a death, or sometimes it could be a breakup too, it's very similar to a physical injury, right? So I
right.
have that analogy, and people tend to, nobody thinks twice about giving themselves a little extra TLC, right? If you like sprain your ankle, you have to immobilize that particular area of your body. And people don't necessarily think of that when they've sustained an emotional injury. And I use that analogy, and I think so something that I was going through at the time, so I'm like, I'm going to make a video about this because it's really raw and I'm feeling these feelings, and it might help. I've actually sent it to like a few of my friends that have lost someone, the video, and they thanked me for it,
Wow.
because it's true, so a lot of times it's something that I'm actually going through at the time.
And that
So mhm, mhm.
makes it even more personal and more meaningful too, I think. And
Thank
also,
you.
I wanted to
Mhm,
ask
mhm.
you too, What do you see? What do you feel like the future holds for you for doing it? Do you see your YouTube channel growing as you have time? Because I know you have a very busy life right now with your daughter and
Yes.
everything. So do you feel
Mhm.
like you want to make it even bigger and have more topics? Because right now, I mean, I'm really liking what I'm seeing, what you're doing with your YouTube channel. So I think it's
Mhm.
amazing in what you do. And I
Thank
think
you.
it's amazing when anybody, especially women, can get their feelings and their thoughts out there and help others. I mean, that's such a huge thing. So I hats off to you, Mari, for
Thank
doing
you.
that. So thank you. You're doing a good service for women out there, and in, even men too, I think, because
I think
some
some of the topics are universal, right?
right.
uh, and and in terms of the whole thing with the women, with the sisterhood, I think and as human beings, we just have to hold each other up, right? And we've all been through some unprecedented times, and the things that we've seen recently, with the pandemic and post-pandemic and everything, and just all of the things that are going on. So I think we really need to hold each other up. But I do intend to continue the channel. I have slowed
Yay.
down a bit in terms of churning out the videos, because my personal life has been busy with my daughter. As a single mom, I really, there's really no one else that I can go to, or I shouldn't say that. I do have family that have really helped me out, but it's a little bit challenging sometimes. But I still have some topics I really kind of started. I did a couple of videos on self-discovery. I want to delve into that a little bit more, maybe like talking about like healing the inner child. But lots of different things, like some more fun topics like how to get over Mr. Wrong. I think I enjoy the dating, putting together the dating videos, because they're really funny, and I like to do little funny vignettes in them, and I really
Uh-huh.
enjoy doing that too. So I have a lot of different things. The importance of rituals. I think I've been kind of, I've always loved traditions, and I feel like rituals are sort of like a similar type thing, and I believe that they're important, and you know um how to break cycles, a cycle of avoidance if you're avoiding something that you want to do, or like some people sort of self-sabotage themselves
Mm.
from reaching goals and things like that. And these are things that I know that I have issues with, right? So how do I break myself out of that? So I want to make some videos on that. So I have topics. I feel like I have tons of ideas, so it's not like I'm drying up with the ideas. I just haven't had the time, and I really like to I put a lot into my videos. So I definitely am going to continue, and hopefully I'll be able to start putting them out a little bit more often
Yeah, and then
in the
it's the same
future.
with me with my podcast too. At early on, I was doing an episode a week, and then life happens. I mean, I
Mhm.
work, especially after the
Mhm.
pandemic, things
Mhm.
started opening up and things like that.
Right.
So I'm still doing episodes as frequently as I can, but you know what? There are other priorities that have to come first. And so I get it. I totally get it. Well, Mari, thank you so much for blessing me with your presence on the 100th episode of the podcast. It's awesome, and I'd love to have you on again, in not
Oh,
so
it's my
distant
pleasure.
future, to
Yeah, I
talk
would
about.
love to be on again. And I just love what you do too. I have to say, your podcasts, I think, are amazing. I think they're so helpful. I mean, you review laptops and ice cream flavors and
Yes.
cars, and so yeah, so I really, really enjoy your podcast and what you do. And I like, again, I'm very honored to be on this 100th episode, and I would love to be on your podcast again in the future.
Oh, bless you, Mari. Thank you so much. That just makes me feel awesome to hear you say that. And I'm hoping that I'm making a difference in many other people's lives, and I'm hoping my podcast continues to grow and flourish, and I can do more fun topics. And like I said, I just love a little bit of everything, so it's fun to just not do just one thing. My interests are everywhere, mean, as a grad student, my major was American Studies because I love culture, but I love all these other things. And so it's so fun to be able to talk about all these other things and even ice cream and food and just everything. So thank you, Mari. I appreciate you blessing me with your presence on this 100th episode of the Total Podcast. So, Mari, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
You're welcome. So with that, that's the end of this segment of the Total Podcast, the 100th episode. Stay tuned. We will be back for much, much more right after this. Welcome back to this special 100th episode of the Total Podcast with me, your host, Phil Scott. So my next guest on the special 100th episode of the Total Podcast is a guest that I had on last year. Her name is Erin Murphy. She's an author, she's an airline pilot, and so much more. So Erin, welcome back to the show. Thank you for doing this 100th episode. I'm so excited to have you on. So thank you.
Absolutely. I can't wait to listen to this episode myself. I'm excited to see who you reconnected with and how they're all doing.
Oh, well, I can't wait for you to hear it. It'll be very interesting. I'll have at least one new guest that you haven't heard yet. She's going to be in an upcoming episode. She'll be in episode 101, actually, and which I've already, I'll take the veil off. I've already done 101. So 100 has been quite the task to put together because I have so many guests, and so they can come on at certain times. So I've been having to adjust my schedules, which is cool. I can do that. I mean, this is a special episode, so I want to get the best guests and the guests that have a lot of meaning to me. So thank you for doing this, Erin.
Great. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, I've even people that I see that you have interviewed and that I've listened to on your podcast, I've even connected with them through Instagram, and we've supported each other, whether it's through books or whatever it is that is their genre. So you've definitely been a little social networking tool yourself.
Oh, thank you. Well, if I can touch the lives of people out there and connect people, then the show's doing its job. So thank you so much, Erin. Thank you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, first of all, I want to talk about what you're up to now. But first, let's talk about your time on the show earlier. So we talked about your book, Halfway Home, which has since come out now. And so tell us about how it's done, because you've put a lot of work into it, and you've done a lot of things not only associated with the book, but with animal rescues in general. So tell us how that whole process has gone for you and what it has been like for you.
It's been, I would characterize it as a whirlwind. It was really nerve-wracking right before the book launched, and I felt really uncertain even during the launch. And then I kind of rode a high where it got really exciting and extremely rewarding when you finally see your book in people's hands and people taking the time to write reviews and share with their communities. That was extremely touching and exciting. So much so for myself, because I published with a hybrid publishing house. So a lot of the marketing falls on my shoulders. And so what I learned in one of the marketing courses that was required by me to take from my hybrid publisher to kind of get myself ready for what would be entailed after the book launch. They really encouraged me to really use social media if that was something I felt comfortable with. And so I do post and share a lot on there. And the thinking behind the frequency in which I post and share is that not everyone is on all the time, right? We're all busy. We all have life things going on. You might not be on for a month or so, but I wanted to stay consistent with that and relevant with that. So that seemed to have proven well for me. Most of my connections and sales from my website have been from people that I don't know, have been specifically through Instagram. So I know there's all this social media shaming in the world, but I really use it as a tool, and not even just a tool. I feel like I'm making like yourself, I'm making genuine connections. It's not like there's some like really big sales manipulative tactic going on of mine. I just feel like I am attracting who I want. So my book, being an aviation and animal rescue picture book, has the ability to reach parents, schools, and animal lovers. And so a large, and really, I wish it did touch more, but it really only touches on a small part of my aviation community. Like, I think if the storyline was a little bit more heavy-handed about flying, and not the animal rescue world, like, it seems to be attracting aviators who also love animals like myself. So if you're just an aviator, some people are like, oh yeah, it's cute, but it's not like a hardcore, book about drones or something, right? That
Right.
you would be like, oh, I'm all over this. But, so all to say is it took me time to find who my audience is. And you kind of have an idea of who that audience is going to be when you go into the launch. But it's become very, very clear to me. It's just what I said. It's a small percentage of aviation people, and it's a huge percentage of animal lovers. So I really thought I was going to market more towards children. It is a children's book. However, it's animal lovers that are coming through to me with their most enthusiasm. So, and a lot of them did not know about the role that aviation plays in animal rescue. So I really feel like the book is doing its purpose. So I enjoy collaborating with different animal air rescues and using funds from the sales. And because I'm self-published, I can, change the price on my website and then use some of the proceeds to support some of the animal air rescues. So I'm enjoying collaborating with people.
Now,
and I'm always open to it.
Now, you've had a chance to read to some children already, correct?
I have, yes.
And
I've done
what was that like?
a couple. It's great. I mean, they just get so excited. And then, the only thing that's sometimes a challenge is that, the book is about my rescue dog, Zeke, and he just does not do that well around strangers. So people are always a little disappointed that I don't bring him. However, a learning curve took place, and I realized that showing some pictures and videos of him suffices. And then sometimes I make like I'll do one of two things. I bring like a dry erase board, and at the end I have the children write a message to Zeke and tell them they're going to go home and show him everything that they wrote or shared, or even just have them all write something on sticky notes. And then that way it feels like they're still connecting with his character.
Now, tell me about the foster that you have.
Oh,
that's been interesting.
Now he's sleeping.
Oh.
Thank God he's sleeping. So rescuing Zeke and getting involved in the animal air rescue services. So there is something that sometimes people draw a conclusion on that is completely natural for them to draw. So I'm not flying the air rescue services. I literally just meet the airplanes, help unload at the airport into vans, and those vans get transported to the shelter and then unload to the shelter. Right. If I flew for an airline and flew for the air rescue, I would never spend any time with Zeke or my husband or have any home life. So that's why I don't do that. I have tagged along on rescue flights and I love it, but right now that's just the balance. So only my flying is at United. So all to say is when I started to help unload the rescue animals from the airplane into the shelter, I just saw how crowded it was. Like, I heard of these things, I knew of it, but in fairness, it was just not a really prevalent part of my life. But once I saw how crowded they were, and I can see if I literally take even a dog home just for one night, that's one more free space they have. And I live in the Northeast portion of Pennsylvania, and it's a highly adoptable rate area. So typically by the end of the week or even a couple of days, they're already adopting and then they have space again. So it's a wonderful shelter. They're not terribly overcrowded. They have a lot of resources, but I just started to see like, I can even help a little bit more. So we currently have a foster. His name is Dexter Morgan. Truth be told, we're considering him, but he's just so incredibly frightened of men. And wow. He's really having a hard time, like with my husband. So he doesn't express his fear through aggression, but he just runs and hides. So like every time my husband comes in the room, he just runs away. Wow. So we're trying to help acclimate him a little bit. So even if he doesn't become ours, he can, whatever home he goes into, it'll be a smoother transition for him because he's already been in a home. So you can really see the changes though. It's extremely rewarding.
And how long have you had him right now?
So we're going on about 2 weeks now. So he has to go back tomorrow because I'll be flying I'm flying to Geneva twice this coming week, 2 trips. So he won't, I mean, my husband would be happy to keep him alone, but he said, he's just so afraid of me. I don't want him to like, be horrified without you here. So he's going to go back. So we decided that if he's still available when I come back from my 2 trips from Geneva, maybe we'll reevaluate. But there's he's one of many stories. There's lots of dogs that just, had something happen to them that none of us will ever really know what it is. And so to be able to like even open your home up for literally one evening, there's even a program at the SPCA that I volunteer at in Pennsylvania called the Doggers program. So you take a dog out for a jog and just for the afternoon and bring them back. And then you can make notes on their behavior, and that is extremely helpful in aligning them up with the right adopters. So all of that that I just blabbed about started just from adopting Zeke, writing the story, getting going deeper into the animal air rescue. It just got so much bigger for me, like in so many areas of my life. It's really cool.
That's fantastic. Now, what do you see moving forward? What do you see yourself doing moving forward in terms of writing? Do you hope to write about Zeke again or write about animal rescues again?
I do. I have 3 other manuscripts, and they all center around, that was Zeke snoring, if you heard that. They all center around some element of aviation air rescue. And it's the same format as the story about Zeke. So the story about Zeke trying to find a home with the backdrop of the animal air rescue services. I'm still just so floored, even in my aviation world, how few people know that this exists. So I just really feel called to highlight this, less popular side of aviation and the role that it has in animal adoptions. But just recently, the last couple months, I started to rewrite them because just like you queried, and very naturally so, everyone is asking me like, well, what's Zeke's life now? I mean, he's adopted. We want to know, like, well, what's he doing? And so the other 3 manuscripts did not have Zeke in it at all. So, and I'm going back and rewriting. So I just want to have them featured in there because I still want to be able to showcase like a different, like there's so many animals that have so many different unique stories. So I'm tapping into those different stories with a different main character. But I'm thinking that maybe the pilot will always be Maeve, who is in Halfway Home. And now she just has Zeke. So that's Zeke's new gig. He just tags along in the air rescues with Maeve, and they go around helping and saving animals together, kind of as like a little duo, but they'll just be featured in there because I think everybody wants to see them again.
I think so too.
Yeah, and then the woman pilot thing is still cool to showcase Maeve as the pilot consistently. So that's where I'm at. So I personally had a goal where I wanted to rebound the monies that I put forward into the publishing process, because I published, with a hybrid house where I fronted the capital. So I'm making my way there. I kind of gave myself 2 years to rebound that, and I only published in June, so I'm not quite there. But it takes usually about a year to publish. So I'm starting to get itchy and prepare for what I'm going to do next.
Mm-hmm. And your publisher, by the way, is BiblioKid, correct?
BiblioKid Publishing. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, they just opened up for submissions, and they have a couple of different avenues now that are even more affordable to even guide someone if they just want to really have a little bit more bare bones and control and self-publish, or someone like me. I'm happy for them to do the IBSM number. Like they can figure out how it gets to Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I have no desire to even know how to do any of that stuff. I don't really think I have time. So that is kind of how that works out for me. But they do offer a lesser costly approach if you are more motivated than I am to do all that. It's more financially reasonable.
And finally, what do you think is the most important thing you've learned on your journey writing and with the animal rescues? What thing do you think stands out mainly for you? Or it could be 2 things. What stands out mostly for you?
I guess first 2 would be, the first one personally is I just tapped into a creative side of my brain that I didn't really know it exists. I see the value in keeping things very tight procedurally in the aviation world and flying world for, safety reasons. And it's important to be methodical. Even in an emergency, when it's not something that happens every day, we sort of have an idea of what we're already going to do, but it just created such a linear thinking path in my brain where the writing just is like opened up this whole other side of my brain that feels like really rewarding. And then beyond that, coming up with different marketing ideas. I mean, I'm still just a small published author, but I love coming up with different ideas. I'm like, oh, I wonder if this person wants to collaborate, or maybe this person would like to do a giveaway, and how could we get people interested? So I really enjoy doing that. But from the air rescue side, it just has opened me up to even more air rescues than the one that I specifically wrote about. So I specifically was writing about Wings of Rescue, who collaborate with the Brandywine Valley SPCA in Westchester, PA.
Mhm.
So twice a month they'll fly in. And then as I started to, again, on social media, follow them, I started to follow all these other air rescues. So I'm always promoting the OG Brandywine Valley and Wings of Rescue, but it has just connected me with some other really fantastic nonprofits that are doing animal air rescue services. So it's just gotten even bigger.
And I will make sure to put links to your Instagram and the other websites that you feel are important in the show notes. And I will do that for my other guests that I've had on the 100th episode as well. So I just wanted to put that out there for listeners in case they want to let you know that too. So Erin, thank you so very much. Bless you for coming on. It is such an honor to have you on my 100th episode. When I started this podcast over 2 years ago, I didn't even think about doing 100th episode. I just wanted to get it going and see where it would take me. And it's been such a joy to do. And I just want to keep going with it. So here's to 100
Yeah,
more.
absolutely. Well, I don't see you stopping anytime soon. I mean, every time I look at a new, you have a new advertisement for a new podcast from your post, it's always such an array of topics. So I don't know how anyone could ever like become uninterested, because it's kind of like, oh, what's Phil talking about today? Oh,
Yeah.
car, a drone, food, an author, just a unique individual, his own writing, his own path. I mean, you just have like you're such a variety pack.
And I love that. And that's why I ended up changing the name to the Total Podcast, because that wasn't the original name of the podcast. But I have and I have all these interests, and I've had them from the beginning of the podcast. So it's been just this joy to be able to talk about different things, because I'm the boss and I can talk about whatever I want to. So
Yeah.
I love just talking about cars, and just I love writing. So I love having authors on, and I've had actresses on, and a drone person on, and just it's just been such a joy just to have such a different variety of things to talk about on the podcast. So I mean, having you on as a writer and a pilot, I mean, you just have these different facets, and I just love that. So people like you make doing the podcast so much fun and such an honor. So thank you, Erin. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. And I will have more coming up on this episode, this 100th episode of the Total Podcast with me, your host, Phil Scott. Hello, and welcome back to this 100th episode of the Total Podcast with me, your host, Phil Scott. So, on this segment of my 100th episode, I have another former guest, and she is a photographer, but actually, she is so much more. She is Kathryn Chapman. Kathryn, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. I am so blessed and honored to have you back on. So, thank you very much, Kathryn.
Thank you for asking me, Phil, and congratulations on your 100th episode. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So without further ado, Kathryn, since we last spoke, tell me what you've been up to, and tell me, because you've been up to some wonderful, fascinating things, and tell my listeners what you've been up to in the time that, because it's been a while since we spoke last.
Yeah, so I've rebranded. That's quite recent. So I've been planning that for about a year, and I'm rebranded I've rebranded because I'm moving away from just doing photography. So I continue to do photography, but I also I'm doing other things. And I wanted to have a brand that really met my business where it's at and allows me scope to fill it with other stuff as the bonkers ideas come up. So I'm not Kathryn Chapman Photography anymore. I am Feel More Creative. And my work is all about creating safe spaces for people to notice themselves more, to notice their feelings. And I do that through photography, obviously. I also do that through gallery tours. So I meet people in London at a gallery of their choice, and we do my felt process, and I teach them how to notice themselves more through art. And it's very beautiful and quite extraordinary. In the last one I did, I met my imposter syndrome, which was completely unexpected. I often try and do the process alongside my clients so I can help them to lean into their feelings a bit more by being honest and vulnerable with my own. So I met my imposter syndrome in a piece of Renaissance art, which was extraordinary. And I also do, I curate an online gallery. So my website has a page called Felt Photographic, and I invite photographic responses to the titles of my open calls. And the art is just responded to from the emotional and felt sense. So artists love it because that's why they create in the first place. As a general rule, we create from emotion to evoke emotion, and my panel are not allowed to say whether they like or dislike the art. I take them through a specific process when they are noticing how they're responding to the art. So there's no critique, judging, scoring, anything like that. And they choose the images for the exhibition based purely on how they're responding, what they're responding most strongly to in the art that they're seeing. So not much in the life.
And what do you feel has been most impactful about doing that particular thing? Because it seems like it's been very powerful.
Gosh, that's quite a hard question. I think it's all about me noticing where my work is going, what I'm instinctively drawn to, and following that really. So I think the impact comes from choosing to be in that space and choosing to notice what I am interested in and passionate in, and are other people wanting to come along for the journey, along for the ride with me on some of that.
Well, I've noticed too, just even getting back to just the photography aspect of it, I've always been impressed that your photos have been so powerful, and even the portraits that people choose that mean a lot to them are very important and impactful to them. Tell me about some of your interactions with some of the people that you've worked with.
I think one of the biggest things that I notice with the portraiture I do is the reactions when clients first see their gallery. They know it's them in the pictures, but they can't believe it's them. So there's this real kind of mismatch between what they're seeing and what they're feeling. And my job is to create the space, create the conversation that they can start to see themselves and believe and feel that that is them, and know this is who they are when all their hats are taken off. And it's a really powerful and beautiful thing. And it's a process. So everything I do doesn't stop beyond the end of our conversations or the end of our work together. The process is ongoing, as it is with me and my images from my self-portrait work. It's forever gifting, and it's beautiful, and I love that because I know I can just, let a client go when we finish the work, and then they will be getting more and more and more out of their pictures of themselves, and that's really, really nice, and I love it. And I offer free gallery viewings to my clients every year for as long as they want it, because it's really lovely to look back and see your own growth through your images. It's very powerful.
Now, I would assume that you work with people from all over the world. It gives you a chance to work with different people. What's that experience been like for you?
absolutely amazing, amazing. So I've met people I never would have otherwise met, and especially through the online gallery curation. I've just been having lovely conversations with a lady from Namibia, another guy from who lives on one of the Spanish islands. Yeah, and the entries for the open calls come from all over the world. I mean, it's quite extraordinary. Who now, the people that I'm now connected with that see my work, that are following me, and I'm following them back, and it's just opened up this most beautiful creative door, well, millions of doors really. There's just loads of doors being opened with all these incredible artists that I'm coming across. So it's absolutely wonderful.
Tell me a little bit about the mentoring that you do.
So that's mentoring through creativity. So it's great for people who have a passion for photography, whether it's their business or not. But it's all about growing through photography and understanding yourself better, using the felt process, the felt sense. It's great for people who are working through self-portraiture actually, and understanding what they can learn about that, how to get themselves into the right space to be able to do it so they can be their most authentic whilst they're doing self-portraiture. Bit of technical help with it as well, but it's all about the space that you put yourself in when you're doing the self-portraiture and what you can learn about yourself from your images afterwards. So it's holding people through that, and mindful photography, or my twist on mindful photography, which I call feltful photography. So that's mindful photography from the somatic sense, and really dropping in, out of your head into your body, and using that to know yourself better, and as a vehicle to use moving forward in your life. So it's really whatever clients want to work on, but the work is focused around art, creativity, photography in some shape or form.
Now, I wanted to ask you too, because I kind of think that this might be kind of interesting to ask. What has been the oldest person that you've worked with and the youngest person that you've worked with doing this?
So the oldest person I worked with, she was 88.
Wow.
She's no longer with us.
Oh.
She passed away on Valentine's Day 2 years ago, bless her.
Wow.
Which was very appropriate because she was a beautiful lady. And so she was 88. She did my face-to-face process. And the youngest I think I've worked with was 19. And I did a freedom shoot with her.
And I'll bet, regardless of the age, it's been such an important and just a heartfelt process that people go through when they see their photos.
Yeah. I mean, we as photographers, we see people through our own lens. Well, as humans, we see people through our own lens. And what I try and do is to see people on a really deep level. And as a photographer, I'm sure you kind of get it. I can meet people and feel like I instantly know who they are, and I can look into their eyes and get this massive sense of where they're at emotionally, and almost how they're feeling. It's a real deep seeing of people. And yeah, it's a really powerful journey for me to reflect back to them what I see in them. And it's all about self-acceptance, holistically accepting that I see people's beauty and their vulnerability and their courage and all those kinds of things. And actually that I see beauty in the difficult, and especially in the difficult. And it's the places that people don't want to go to that I want them to go to in some shape or form, so they can see and accept that these parts of them are valid and they're extraordinary as well. So even our difficult parts have and contain huge amounts of beauty. There's huge light in our darkness, and it's not to be, you don't need to be afraid of your own darkness, because ultimately it's very gifting and beautiful. It's just often helpful to have somebody to hold you through that, or to reflect it back and to show you that it's not scary.
Absolutely. Well said, Kathryn. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being on my 100th episode. I was just honored to have you back on, because you are so insightful and interesting. And I hope that we can talk again very soon. I'd love that.
Bless you. Well, it's been really wonderful to see you. Thank you ever so much, and an honor to be asked. And yes, let's catch up soon.
Yes. Well, bless you again for coming on. It's so amazing to have you on. So thank you very much, Kathryn Chapman. And Kathryn, tell us your website again.
It's feelmorecreative.org.
All right. And then I will have links to that in the show notes. So thank you very much, Kathryn. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.